it will affect America. And, it'll make a lot of goods and services that people buy every day that much more expensive. One of the things that he really criticized Joe Biden for, and then Kamala Harris, was the inflation rate, slapping sanctions tariffs on goods is likely to be inflationary. And that's before we've got to goods coming in from China and goods coming in from the European Union and elsewhere as well.
Right.
This America First agenda could end up costing the American consumer quite a lot of money.
Well, talking of Donald Trump, we mentioned him once or twice there. The president-elect delivered one of his trademark holiday greetings today, wishing his friends and enemies a, quotes, happy Thanksgiving, specifically saving time for, quotes, radical left lunatics. It comes after at least 5 Democratic members of Congress from Connecticut received bomb threats this week, including one House lawmaker who was the target of a threatening email announcing a pipe bomb in a home mailbox. The president-elect also made headlines on Monday night when he vowed to introduce 25% tariffs on goods coming from Mexico and Canada. Both countries have since warned that the plans could upend their economies. So here to talk us through the latest headlines out of the US is Alistair Dawber, the Times Washington correspondent. Hello, Alistair.
Hi, Henry. How are you doing?
I'm really good, thanks very much. I wish I was celebrating a Thanksgiving, but I'm not in the States, so like you. What's the mood at the moment? I mean, the president wishing his friends and enemies a happy Thanksgiving. He's not unbowed. He's not dialing things down at all as the day comes. How many days now? It's less than 60 days before he becomes president.
That's right. The president-elect, he sent out a traditional Thanksgiving message this morning, and he included, quite specifically, and I'm reading it now, radical left lunatics who have worked so hard to destroy our country. So it was a sort of slightly tongue-in-cheek Thanksgiving message. But you're right. I mean, we heard a lot during the campaign, a lot of sort of shrill, what people might have called rhetoric about what he might do in office. But actually, it looks as though some of these things he's prepared to go through with. You mentioned the tariffs there on China and Mexico. On Canada and Mexico. Yeah. He announced that on Monday. That will be one of the first things he says he'll do when he comes into office, sign an executive order to make it extremely expensive for American importers to buy Canadian and Mexican goods, and also with China as well. Now, he's also had phone calls this week with Justin Trudeau, the Canadian Prime Minister, and the new Mexican president too. So I think what we might be seeing is quite a lot of public utterances just to sort of reassure those people that voted for him that, the America First agenda is still first and foremost in his mind. But he is at least, I think, reaching out to some of these people he's targeting and discussing, I think, in a bit more detail what he's planning to do, preparing them and perhaps sort of talking about how things are going to be implemented. So, we're hearing a lot of public rhetoric, but maybe, behind the scenes, things are being prepared to, or the groundwork being prepared to make this as soft a landing as possible.
Yeah, and both Canada and Mexico have made it clear. Indeed, the Mexican president, his letter was published, reminding Trump and his America First team that two can play at this game. I mean, our economies are intrinsically linked. Huge imports go across the border back and forth, and it will also hurt you, they seem to be saying.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it does work both ways. I think it's more likely if Donald Trump carries through with the sanctions he suggested, the tariffs he suggested, it's more likely to be damaging to the Mexican and Canadian economies. But it will affect America, and it'll make a lot of goods and services that people buy every day that much more expensive. One of the things that he really criticized Joe Biden for, and then Kamala Harris, was the inflation rate, slapping sanctions tariffs on goods is likely to be inflationary. And that's before we've got to goods coming in from China and goods coming in from the European Union and elsewhere as well.
Right.
This America First agenda could end up costing the American consumer quite a lot of money.
I suppose he's hoping for more headlines like these. I don't know if you've seen the Financial Times for Friday morning, Alistair, but the headline is this: talk to Trump and buy American. Lagarde, as in Christine Lagarde, the head of the ECB, counsels European leaders. And there's a quote here. It says here, in her first interview since Trump won his second presidential term, she said the EU needed to, and I quote, not to retaliate, but to negotiate with the president-elect, who has threatened a blanket tariff of up to 20% on all non-Chinese imports. And so this notion of, hey, don't hit back, talk to him, that's what he wants, and buy American to please him. Oh, I mean, how's that as a bargaining chip, as a negotiating stance?
Well, I think it's quite a clever approach, really. Donald Trump is at his heart a negotiator, a deal maker, a businessman. And what anyone goes into a negotiation with is to offer outlandish terms, knowing that they're going to be chipped away at and bargained down and negotiated away. So I think that Donald Trump appreciates someone on the other side of the table negotiating just as hard back. And I think what Christine Lagarde there is saying is, don't do what I think politicians in the past may have had a tendency to do, which is to retaliate in kind. It's to sit down across the table and to thrash it out with Donald Trump. I think he sees politics as a pretty transactional game, and which is more likely to respect someone who goes toe-to-toe with him.
Yeah. And what about political scientists who are saying, one or two of them, the senior ones in the States, are saying that Trump's mandate is not necessarily one for radical change? Because you would think, given that he won and pretty decisively, both in the electoral college and more narrowly in the popular vote, that he would feel I can do whatever I like. But there's a professor at Cornell University called Peter Enns who says actually voters haven't necessarily given him a mandate to make radical changes. You've seen that?
I haven't seen a particular quote. What I would say, though, is that I suspect that Donald Trump will waste not an iota of time worrying about what Professor Enns is saying.
Yeah.
He will say he won the election, which he did. He won the popular vote, which he did. There is no doubt in anyone's mind the sort of agenda that Donald Trump has. I think to suggest that he might have to taper some of his, what I imagine people think of his more sort of aggressive stances on things, just aren't really going to hit home. And Donald Trump is president for the next 4 years. He's got a Republican House of Representatives and a Republican Senate. I don't think that Donald Trump will feel as though he's going to be contained by very much at all.
All right. Alistair, thank you very much indeed for your analysis, as ever. That's Alistair Dawber, the Times Washington correspondent.
I hope he rethinks it. I think it's a counterproductive thing to do. You know, look, one of the things you've heard me say before, that we have an unusual situation in America. We're surrounded by the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, and two allies, Mexico and Canada. And the last thing we need to do is begin to screw up those relationships. I think we've got them in a good place. I think by the way, you know, the cooperation with the outgoing president and the incoming president, the illegal crossings are down considerably to what they were back when he was in office. There's a lot more to do, but I just think, I hope they reconsider.